Hi everybody, welcome to more Political Excess. Today let's do another deep dive into an upcoming governor's election. Today let's look at New Hampshire. It's not expected to be competitive, but let's look at it anyway. So let's start on Ballotpedia and get a little bit of background. The current governor is Republican Chris Sununu, and he is running for re-election to a fourth term. New Hampshire has 2-year terms, so he's going for his fourth term, which would be 8 years overall if he completes it. 2 years ago, in 2020, he won re-election by nearly 32 points, so it was a massive blowout landslide not that long ago. His opponent on the Democratic side is Tom Sherman. Sherman is a state senator. So let's go back and look at their primaries, and Tom Sherman, he was unopposed. Chris Sununu had primary challengers, but it was nothing remotely serious. He won with 79% of the vote. His nearest challenger had 10%. And if you like to compare raw vote totals from the primaries, the Democrats had over 82,000 and Republicans had over 99,000. I don't personally put much weight on who had more votes in the primary, but if you do, Republicans, they came out on top. So let's go down here and see how this race is rated by the rating sites. And everyone currently has it at safe or solid Republican. Inside Elections had it at likely Republican, but the last couple of weeks it's been solid Republican. I would agree with this. I think it has to be safe Republican. Each time Chris Sununu has won, it's been by a larger margin than the last. That, of course, would be hard to continue, given he won it by over 30 points last time. So I would expect it to be down from that, but he's well positioned to win this by way over 10 points. So for some more context, let's go down here and take a look at the county voting trends on a presidential level. Now these are some rather unique results, but this shows us that 33.8% of the population lives in 2 counties that are battleground Democratic. Now these are counties defined on Ballotpedia that had voted for Barack Obama in 2012, then they switched to Donald Trump in 2016, but then they switched back to Joe Biden last time in 2020. There's also another 32.8% of the population that lives in 4 counties that are solid Democratic, and Ballotpedia considers those counties to be ones that voted for the Democrat for president in the last 3 cycles. And then there's another 26.4% of the population that lives in 2 counties that are new Democratic. And those are counties that voted for Mitt Romney in 2012, then went to Trump, and then last time flipped for Joe Biden. On the other end, there's only 1 county with 4.6% of the population that is solid Republican, and that voted for Mitt Romney and then Donald Trump both times. There's 1 other county trending toward the Republicans, but it only has 2.3% of the population in it. So on a macro level, it does appear this is a heavily Democratic state with all those counties voting for the Democrat for president. However, that's more so indicative of New Hampshire being a smaller state and not having a large amount of counties. It also tells us that although those counties did vote for the Democrat in a lot of these presidential elections, it tells us nothing about the margins. And in most of these counties, it's relatively close, so a Republican does have a chance to win some of these. So that's why a Republican has occasionally won in New Hampshire for some of these federal offices. So let's go down here and take a look at some of these counties. And the thing to keep in mind is that the shading does not indicate margins. That just indicates how many cycles out of the last 3 that particular county voted for the Democrat or Republican for president. So the most populous county is Hillsborough County. That has over 30% of the population in it. Last time, Joe Biden did win that by over 7%. But 4 years before that, Trump actually narrowly eked out a win by 0.2%. If we look at these other counties, there's not really a lot of lopsided margins. Nobody's winning with 70 or 80% of the vote. A lot of times in some of these states, a college town has the biggest impact for what makes a county as blue as it is. And in New Hampshire, the most lopsided margin here is Grafton County. Joe Biden won that with 61% of the vote last time. And that is actually the only county where either candidate got 60% of the vote or more. And on the Republican side, yeah, there's only 2 counties that voted for Donald Trump last time, and the largest of those was just over 10 points. For a Republican to be competitive here for president or for any statewide race, they can't be losing all these counties. They have to chip away and even flip at least a couple more of these counties. But as far as governor goes, for the most part, Chris Sununu has been widely popular. I know some of the Trump base thinks he kind of got soft, And of course, the left base is not really going to like him either. He has a lot more crossover and moderate type appeal, but I don't think he's in the category of someone like Charlie Baker, Larry Hogan, or his neighbor, Phil Scott. But let's switch over here and see how each municipality voted for governor 2 years ago when Sununu won by a complete landslide. There's a lot of deep red, and then there's some more lighter red, very few blue. So Chris Sununu had a wide appeal across much of the state. There's not much more to say about it. It's probably hard to imagine doing any better than he did. So you can look through these if you'd like. If you want to take a look at the margins, of course all these links will be down below. Let's switch over to YouTube and see what they've got on their channels. Now, Chris Sununu has another channel for him being governor. It's not a lot on here recently, actually. He does have an ad from about a month ago. And then he's announcing he's running for a 4th term. And then the rest of the stuff is pretty old. He's got some stuff. I don't think it pertains much to this particular campaign. I'm guessing he doesn't think he has to do a lot of campaigning, at least as far as ads go. It's a smaller state. He can make the rounds with much less effort than some of these bigger, much more heavily populated states. Now, as for Tom Sherman's channel, he's got a little bit on here, but there's not much. I think he knows he's going to come out on the bottom. He'd like to make it closer. I'm sure he'd love to get it under 10 points, but I think at this point it'd be a victory if he got it under 20 points. And we could also take a look at their official campaign websites. Here's Chris Sununu's. If you want to take a look at what he's got going on, feel free to do so. And then if we take a look at Tom Sherman's site, you can pretty much do the same thing if you want to donate, see where he stands on some of the issues that might matter to you. So how about any debates that might be coming up? This site will show you when all the New Hampshire debates are scheduled. And as for governor, this says they're still waiting to hear back from Governor Sununu to see if he's going to take part in this debate. It would be highly disappointing if he did not, as he's done debates previously. He's fairly well liked in the state. I can't imagine him not debating. That would look really pathetic if he didn't. But as of the time of this video, I could not find a definitive schedule for this debate. So let's switch over to Wikipedia, and there's a few endorsements here. Not much, but you can look at those. And then let's take a look at the polling. Right now in the aggregate, Sununu is up really big, about 17 points on Real Clear Politics, almost 20 on 538. And if we look at the individual polls, Sununu is leading in all of them. And yeah, many of these are by wide margins, 15 to 20 points. So we can also compare these results to 2 years ago in 2020 to see how those polls stack up. And in that year, Sununu won with about 65% of the vote to 33%. The final poll on here was way, way off. That showed a 5-point race. That's an extremely gross error rate. But the rest of the polls weren't too terrible. University of New Hampshire showed a 60 to 36 race. Still underestimating Sununu, but it indicates it's going to be a blowout, and that's exactly what it was. So in conclusion, Chris Sununu is going to win this race for sure. Tom Sherman, he's going to run out of time, even if he ever gets any momentum going. I would think his best case scenario is losing by about 15 points, but it's probably looking more like a 20 to 25 point loss for him at this point. Sununu just has enough crossover appeal. There's a lot of Democrats and independents in New Hampshire, and he's getting the job done. He passed on the U.S. Senate bid, which he would have been favored if he had. So instead he's going for this 4th term, and he is going to get it. It should be a reduced margin than last time, but you never know. Maybe it's another 30-point win for him. He did win nearly his first term 6 years ago, but since then he's just kind of positioned himself. He's governed well enough to be able to overcome that Democratic tilt of New Hampshire. So let me know in the comments, do you think Chris Sununu is going to win it by over 25 points again? Do you think he'll run for a 5th term, or do you think he has other intentions? Let me know down below. And if you enjoy this channel, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next video.